Good afternoon and welcome to everyone. And it's a tough day to be inside when it's that nice outside, but we've got work to do, and I'm sure we're all excited and ready to go. So, Mr. Town Manager, do you want to say anything, or Madam Clerk, do you want to say anything before we get started, or you want to help us get started?
I just briefly will mumble that we just completed the compilation of this, so there's not been any prioritization on it. And I know that Commissioner Kwiatkowski had a process in mind to do that. So with that, I'll defer to the board.
Ms. Pat?
I think last year what we did was we had all looked at just generally the scores and sort of drew a line where we said, you know, we should discuss everything that has greater than this and make a decision which ones we want to set as the priorities that we absolutely are going to address this year. It doesn't mean something lower can't be addressed if somebody wants to, but it was trying to pick the ones that we absolutely had to address. So, you know, we just got the scores. I quickly went through it, and, you know, if you look at it as anything that, the maximum score something can get is 18, because that would be all six of us say it must be, so it's 3 times 6 is 18. Anything that would have a 13 or above means at least one commission member of this board had it must have. So if we want to think of it in terms of that, we could pull out everything that is 13 or above, which by my count is 23 items, and go through and discuss them and just make sure, you know, that we all understand what that particular objective is, and do we want to make it a, yes, we're going to address this, or do we want to make it a, let's keep it on the list of, it would be good if we could address it, but we don't want to make it one of our priorities. There is no right or wrong number for this board to take as the number of priorities we want to address this year. There's a few of them on here that are basically, I think, going to be handled at this upcoming BOCM if everything goes smoothly. So, you know, I don't want to say we should only pick 5 things, because some of these will be simple and straightforward. Others will be more complicated. You know, so my suggestion is we go through and just go through everything that is a 13 or above, make sure everybody is on the same page what it means, and then make a sort of a yes, no, let's keep that as something that we should try to address. And we do calendar year, remember, this calendar year. And address can mean as simple as we've got to get a study done. If it's in the budget, let's pull the trigger.
Wait a minute, say that again about calendar year?
You mean
Our,
fiscal
our,
year?
I call it calendar. No, we do our objectives for the calendar year.
We do our objectives for 1 July through 30 June.
We do the budget ones, yeah, but the other objectives we have been doing for calendar years generally.
That's not my understanding, because
Well,
I
then
thought that this was the kickoff to the budget season.
All the financials are. All the financials, we can do it for fiscal. I'm saying, we can do it for fiscal. Some of these then already fall into, they were addressed with items that are in the budget for this fiscal year. There's a couple things in here then that we already have, like the water tower, that has something in this year's budget, as I recall. Okay. So again, that needs to be kept in mind. So, I'm sorry, it's a kind of a blend to me. I've always considered it that the financial budget part, of course, had to be fiscal, but the other stuff, policies, procedures, what do we want to address in ordinances, were more of a calendar year, but we can do fiscal.
Well, generally speaking, your objectives kind of drive your budget in the corporate world.
Yeah, and for the financial budget, they definitely do. Some of these other things, again, if it isn't for the town to be, let me say, in charge of what we say we should address as for a policy and procedure or something, that's a little different. But I'm,
I'd hate to see us wait till July 1 to start some of these.
but that's what'll happen.
Say that again?
That's what's gonna happen. But that is what will happen. But that's fine. We
Yeah.
can tidy up the things that, between now and July 1st, that are from last year, that are ongoing. But then with that, theoretically, what that means is anything in here that's not, that's an ordinance related or any of these others, theoretically, then it means we start them July 1st.
We didn't take office in July, so I'm kind of with Pat on some of this.
It's sort
Well,
of,
that's what I'm saying is some of these that aren't budget related.
right.
We can go ahead and start now. Some that are budget impacting, we probably have to wait till July unless
Yeah.
there's money in the budget now.
Yeah, I think that's where
And I'm sorry
I'm,
if I didn't make myself clear.
Yeah.
I
That's where
agree with that too.
That's where I was trying to go.
yeah, anything that is financial budget obviously has to be addressed for the next budget year, anything that needs money. But if there are actions that are simply board is going to take action on something
Yep.
that doesn't require money, that to me doesn't have to wait.
Yep.
Um,
I agree. And I got the same numbers you did. I went through and 13 above comes up to 23, which is a gracious plenty to say.
Well, I'll just say that if there is something that the board wishes to do that is, I don't know what it's either project or work-related, that impacts the budget in this year, that is not in the budget,
Yeah.
it's gonna take y'all gonna have to make an appropriation to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we
Okay.
understand.
yeah,
Okay.
so do we just wanna go start with anything above 13 and just quickly go through?
Yep.
If we start financial budget, the first one is just financial stability, which had a high score, and it actually covers a number of different points. But does anybody have, and it actually wraps some of the other stuff that's lower score from above into it. So is this an objective that everybody wants to take to sort of define what is a sort of multifactorial project or oversight type of thing?
I've got a couple questions. As the finance officer, what does number 5 mean? Town meets or exceeds annual financial budget goals.
Well, I
What does
wrote-
that mean?
I wrote that up, and that means we either, once again, you gotta remember, I'm coming from the corporate world, but that either means you exceed your revenues and you come in under your expenses. They either, in
Okay,
other
well-
words, you drive the revenues you plan, and you don't spend any more than what you budget for expenses.
Okay, well,
That might be a better
I
way to say it.
I want to make one point,
Okay,
is that legally, there can be no expenses greater than appropriations are made in the budget.
okay.
Okay, so you're not legal if you're spending
And I'm
more than
fine.
you
I-
do.
that's-
But to your point, I just want to use it as an opportunity to elaborate on that. But as a business management perspective, just because you have $10 of expense programmed to make and $10 of revenue programmed to receive, that does not give carte blanche to spend $10. You don't need an MBA to understand those type of economics.
That's right.
If you only make 8, you can only spend 8. Now, that's probably a different understanding of government economics or government management, but that's my perspective on it. So when I bring the budget to actual, to y'all with the first quarters, or the 3 quarters, you will see not only revenues budget to actual and expenses budget to actual, but the comparison of the cash for how much money you've taken in actually versus, and you'll be able to see whether or not, you are in a hole. Now, you do have to spend negatively just because of the nature of revenues, receipt, not sales tax, but property tax in particular. But at the end, it's got to come out to 0 or plus.
That's right.
So I understand what the financial goals are, but I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing it if there was something else there. Okay.
So are you okay with that wording? You
I'm,
prefer
fi-
to-
I understand that.
Okay.
I do have a question on number 6, as far as the town developing and tracking various financial ratios to flag any negative trends. What is that? Whoever wrote that has something in mind, and
When I wrote it, it was kind of a standard definition I found out there on the internet of some of these things, but I would think there are certain flags that would tell you you're going a negative trend, either your expenses or your revenues. There may or may not be, but generally speaking in finance, there are different ratios you could come up with that gives you an indicator that something's going good or something's going bad.
well, just the local government, the state treasurer takes the AFR, the Accountant and Finance Information Report, and compiles a whole suite of different ratios over time. And then that is actually set up to benchmark against other like municipalities. So that type of information already exists.
Okay.
And
That's
that's
fine.
taken straight from the audit, straight from historical audits. So, it's there, and you just hadn't seen it. is
No,
all.
no.
Okay, all right. I just didn't know if you had
No, I
something
had
new in
nothing
mind.
other than
And-
when we do our quarterly update on the budget, that there's 3, 4, 5 ratios that,
Well, but that is current information, that's new work, and it's not, that information is not what
It's
the
not
local
there.
government, it's not there.
okay.
So if there are different ratios, y'all are gonna have to define those for me on what your interests are.
Okay.
And there are simple things like in the budget actual that we post every month. Simple things like what was budgeted in occupancy tax collections, where are we there? What was budgeted in property tax, where are we there? There are simple things like that that can be looked at, and so,
Yeah, so that's all I'm recommending is,
okay.
I wasn't necessarily trying to recreate the wheels, more of, are there
And,
simple ratios that would just kind of give us another yardstick to say everything's going good, or we need to be looking deeper at something?
and what I'll do on that is when I do that, I can pull some out and propose those. It's kind of a snapshot of the things I'm seeing, and perhaps that'll help.
Okay.
Okay.
Then are we okay with leaving this the way it is, now that there's an understanding of what 5 and 6 mean?
You good, David?
Yes, sir.
Does the group agree that this is something that we should take as one of the objectives? Is that a clear one that we could just say yes?
I do.
Okay. The next one, ensure funding budgeting for lift stations 3 and 2, complete lift station 3, begin prep for lift station 2. Everybody's clear on that, I assume.
And just remind me, lift station 1 would be the following,
Lift station 1, there isn't a clear program because it's above flood, it's above the,
okay.
yeah. So it was lifting the 3 that had the flood issue.
Okay.
Something will have to be addressed
I-
in years to come.
I understand, I understand that. So is this one another one that, yes, this needs to be a priority?
Yes.
Okay. Ensuring funding budgeting for Flow Mike and Dorian FEMA projects? Priority?
I'm assuming this means getting the
Getting the
funding.
money, yeah.
Yeah, well,
We gotta
it's-
borrow them.
we're gonna have to, yeah, well, David can explain what's gonna have to happen quickly.
This is what I call an octopus goal, because the Florence, Michael, Dorian, wheelhouse is $40 million large. And we know that we have Florence and Michael. As a matter of fact, that's on your agenda to adopt the placeholder budget for that. We've got the approvals in for those programs. Dorian is pending, but, yeah, it's coming. I don't know how long it's gonna take to get here, but the budgeting piece of Florence and Michael, you can take care of this coming budget meeting. The actual funding, we're gonna have to work through that. That is going to be probably a year-long process. So, again, I'll use this as an opportunity to explain Florence and Mike, or the FEMA grant project. You gotta pay it up front and get it on the back, so.
And that's why I think the phrase ensure funding
Right.
is so that when we need it, we can get it to do the work, knowing it will come back, but you have to pay up front.
And I'm working on that.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. Is that another yes? Yes.
Do we need to take, I mean, would it make it clear to take Flow Mike and Dorian off and just leave it budgeting for FEMA projects or hurricane-related FEMA projects or something? Don't matter to you?
I understand
Okay.
it.
Eliminate audit concerns. Actually, when you look at that, I think that might fit under some of the stuff that's already in financial stability. Since one of the things was town achieves unmodified opinion rating on annual audit. But if we want to keep this because it has more specifics, that's fine.
I agree with you, just come out.
I'll be glad to discuss these personnel matters in executive session with the board if you'd like to.
Yeah, let me just explain that when we did the objectives, we tried to group a lot of things together that all seem to be under the same topic, so that's why some of these have multiple, but yes, I would agree with you that that would be appropriate. But I would think that eliminating audit concerns, unless somebody wants to get really specific about what exactly do you want to have as the final outcome, which we haven't in the past gotten that far. Eliminating audit concerns can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Well, I did not write this one, but I think what the individual was trying to say here was, you know, we've had some deficiencies the last couple of years in the audit, and it's time to address them and get rid of them. Which is probably a little bit more specific than just achieving an unmodified opinion on the annual financial audit, because we got an unmodified opinion last year, but we still had a couple deficiencies that need to be addressed and taken care of.
I have a question in regards to that. And somebody in the room, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't ever remember an audit for this town that didn't have something that need to be improved? Does anybody have any recollection or know of any records that shows that we've ever had a audit that there wasn't something that needed to be done? Does anybody know of a town anywhere that doesn't have deficiencies or recommendations in their audits? I mean, it's nice to have something, a target out there that you're gonna achieve an audit that gets a rubber stamp and an A+ and nothing's wrong with it. But it's like, that's a dream that you're gonna get there, 'cause there's always something that can be better.
I can answer your first question, and I can only go back to when I began here, and not before that. Every audit since I began here had a weakness in it.
Why is it so hard to get it right?
Because, well,
I'm just asking.
I'm not an auditor or financial genius, but the biggest problem as a layman's eyes look at it is because these numbers move through the year, and as you get to the end of the year, things have to be shuffled to make the projections and the realities come together. There's always bills coming in at the last minute. David, maybe you've got some terminology.
We budget so tight, that there is no leeway at the end when you get there that you don't have to move money around. Other places budget plenty of headroom and don't have to move stuff around.
Is it a time constraint? Kinda like that you don't have enough time to find, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Let me say it in my world, in my little corporate world. My tax returns are due in just a few days, and my CPA is nowhere to be found. And I know I got some stuff in the wrong place. Is that the same problem that the town has, or is everything in order and it's like here and we're waiting on somebody to
We
put a
always,
rubber stamp on it, or is it?
we always
Is it
make,
because we don't have our work done that they're waiting on us, or? That's just a question.
we always net out at zero. It's just that we have to move so much around in order to shoehorn it in that the amounts in total exceed the statutory, not statutory, but the generally accepted accounting principles limits for moving those things around. I mean, it's just a matter of the business, the nature of the business.
I guess the good thing is though, we never had any sacks of money,
Yeah, that's
And
a plus for sure.
Yeah, the money's there, it's just what
And-
line item.
And quite honestly, I mean, I think some of the things Dave has told me, some of the deficiencies we've had in the past, we're probably gonna address this year. But to your point, I mean, once again, all I can rely upon is the corporate world. Sometimes we get to an audit item and we'd say, okay, this risk, while it can't be completely eliminated, we feel like we got it fairly well controlled and we'll live with that risk. It'll never go away because we're not gonna spend the money to make it go away. But we feel like we got it controlled well enough that it won't bite us on the rear end.
And, I mean, one of the things that's under this eliminating audit concerns is one of the points people kept making last year, that with the changes that are happening, we need to make sure staff's qualified to operate under the new audit accounting procedures. Is that really what this is largely about? That we don't get a comeback again about, we question whether or not we have adequately trained staff to oversee, not just do the work, but oversee the work? I mean, because I find it, I can't, I'm having a hard time saying exactly what we want to say this objective is. You know, that's descriptive enough. Because we're never gonna eliminate audit concerns. We all know that we all kinda know what people want, but that's not very specific.
It just,
Yeah.
from what, obviously just getting started in this, but I mean, it's been late. It's, the CPA's not done.
Well, it wasn't late last year.
I know, but I'm, in the past, there's been some, it's no different than what I'm facing right now, and I'm sure it's hard to find a CPA to audit a town. I don't
And it's
even
getting
imagine.
worse.
I
It's
don't
getting
even
worse.
imagine that that's an easy process, but I think all we're saying is if we can eliminate any trouble getting this done year after year after year, I think that's everybody's goal.
Okay.
I think we all can
And
agree
get
we
it
need to
as-
improve. I mean,
And get it as close to right as we possibly can, and maybe one day get that rubber stamp we're looking for, and everything's great. That way, it's easy to tell everybody that, and, it's,
Well, we need to get it out as a distraction, cause some people keep bringing it up and talking about
it
it.
doesn't,
We just need to get it.
it's
out
just
there.
one of the first things that come out,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
Well, I think
hard to explain when we don't have it right.
And it upsets me too that in looking back, all the thousands of dollars that we spent beyond what we normally spend, and we seemingly did not end up with an improvement.
Get anything for it.
That's right.
Yeah,
And also addressing
That's
the last sentence, do we need to fill the empty position? I think we all realize we are, in need of filling a position. And I'm sure David's on top of that.
So we can move on, why don't we just look, I don't want to necessarily eliminate it, this one, but why don't we just put up on the one above was financial stability, why don't we put town achieves unmodified opinion rating on annual financial audit and addresses any audit concerns, or something, just.
Isn't that really all financial
Yeah.
stability? I mean, that's, the words are,
Yeah, but this was one that got 15 points, so you
Yeah.
hate just to eliminate it. I wanna make sure we got it.
I don't think we eliminate, I'm thinking that we need the mindset that's included.
Okay, you're just
In the
saying,
fund.
we all agree that it includes it.
I think Woody's point on number 4 up above, that achieves unmodified opinion rating on annual financial audit and addresses audit concerns, captures that.
Yeah,
Again, what it concerns is ambiguous. Why don't we make it audit deficiencies?
audit deficiencies.
Noted deficiencies. That's more
And I'm
specific.
fine with that too.
Addresses noted deficiencies. Brian, you okay with,
Yeah,
yeah? Okay.
it's part of it.
Yeah. Okay, next one, oversee progress and internal control plan with every 6-month review. David did a plan for addressing that internal control. It's a 2-year plan, as we agreed last year as a board. So this would just be every 6 months to have an update to the Board of Commissioners of what the progress is, how things, what's being finished, what's ongoing, things like that. Objective? Okay. The cost of employees, including benefit package. This has been out there for a couple years now. So again, it got a 13. Is this something that we're going to tackle this year?
Last year, we tackled just salary, right?
It was the personnel policy, and it was job descriptions, personnel policy, and salary adjustment to meet the market norm. Benefits was not part of that.
Do we have
You guys,
an update on what the medical insurance costs are gonna be?
Did we get it? We're in the process of getting quotes. We hadn't got them yet, though.
Okay. Because that's why we were holding off, right? Because we were waiting to see what the cost would be.
And that's usually a part of the budget development process when we get that. We normally get that mid-April.
Okay.
I think we need to leave it in here as part of the financial goal. I mean, we get the information, look at it, and then decide if there's something we need to do.
I guess I'd just ask then, is this something that if we're gonna take it on, there should be something set in the budget for a study? I mean, David, is this similar to doing, job description, salary benchmarking, that there has to be something done by an independent party? Yeah, I guess.
I don't think that's what the board, I'm trying to divine what it is. I think that what the board wants to look at is that they want to look at the health benefits and see what the cost is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I mean, that's
No,
what it is.
that is exactly what it is, and that's what I'm saying is, this isn't the kind of thing that you can just willy-nilly go out and find information as an individual.
But we do have that information because it was supplied to us in the last
Budget.
that we had, right?
Um,
It doesn't compare actual.
It doesn't compare dollars.
No, but it tells you that town A contributes 80% or 40% or 50%, and we contribute whatever we contribute. And based on that alone, I don't think we need to have specific numbers. We can determine whether we're being fair
no.
to our workers by just comparing what we do as opposed to somebody else in a percentage world. We don't need to know it's gonna cost $112 or $98. We just have to know whether it's 60% or 50% or 80%. And whatever we determine is fair.
But again, there is so much variability, well, in the open market, there is so much variability in different medical plans, and particularly for smaller companies, which municipalities, I would guess, small municipalities can be similar to smaller companies, that I would think that there is the chance that there is a big difference between things like deductibles and co-pays and things like that, which is more than just what does it cost per month out of somebody's paycheck. That's why I'm asking.
Okay.
You know,
Well,
it can be so complicated.
Let me ask a question to the people who do that. When we purchase the insurance, the health insurance, do we purchase it from a pool that most other municipalities purchase it from? Or do we go out into the marketplace and ask all the various, any number of insurers to give us a quote?
We have a broker, and they go out and solicit different quotes with us, so we do a lot of different plans. We had looked into the state plan and decided that wasn't an option to us. And what David and I have done over the past few years to keep the cost down is we've actually changed the benefits of the employees by reducing them to keep the cost down. So we've changed the deductibles higher, the co-pays are higher, all that's going up to keep the cost down.
Which unfortunately is not any different in the corporate world either.
No,
Right.
but I don't think that was addressed in the
No,
survey that
no.
we did for
No.
payroll.
No, the benefits portion was just a very simple percentage paid, and that information, a lot of it was, I think, available from one of the surveys that the League of Municipalities does.
And I think the league just announced their new one this week, their
Could
new
be.
survey.
I just go back to, I'm asking whether if this is going to get done, is this something that needs an independent study? This is not something that is simply go to existing data and you can come up with comparisons to others in actual dollars.
I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, I think it's, I think if we want to do this, then we need to have it as a line item in the next year's budget, the next fiscal year's budget, to do some type of study. What that costs, I don't know, but we probably need to have some line item for it if we're serious about wanting to do this. And I'm assuming with 13 points that we wanna do this.
It means at least one person said it must be done.
Yep.
I don't know what type of capability exists with the League of Municipalities to do that kind of evaluation or study, what type of service that is provided by the league, other than, you know, a study is normally what we do during the development of the budget, where we solicit bid. It's basically we're soliciting bids and seeing what seems like it's the least cost, you know, for the town. I mean, that would seem like to me that we're doing that study by doing that. And then also in conjunction with reviewing the percentages and comparing, you know, what does Ocean Isle Beach do? What does Southport do? We go through that, and that is data that's finite, and we can bring that back to the board and show it to you. I mean, if that's what you're looking for in terms of, you know, we're gonna shop the insurance, and we're also gonna look at what other places do, because y'all wanna know that.
Yep.
You know, you want to know that in terms of real money and comparatively to other places. Am I understanding that right? That's what we,
Well,
that's
that's
what we
what I
do.
want.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I understand we're asking for.
And we can get that data without having
Ha-
the contractor.
Or having to go through a whole lot of struggle to get it.
Yeah.
It's readily available. The league compiles that. As a matter of fact, we're starting to see dribbles out on our listserv now. It's going, well, what are y'all looking at? What, you know, those kind of things. And normally there's several informal surveys, you know, that come through over various times. But the league does have hard data on that kind of thing.
In their newsletter this week, they said they had
It's
their
done.
most recent study out. It had like 220 municipalities listed. I hadn't gotten access to that yet, but at least that's what they said.
I hadn't seen
Yeah.
it.
So
I'll say this, and I'm
go ahead.
coming in on, obviously, like after the map study and all that stuff. As far as I'm concerned, as far as employees of this town, I wanna make sure that we're paying them what they need to be paid. And I know, as good as I'm sitting here, that there's people that are still not getting paid what they need to be paid. And I feel like there's some people that are getting more than they need to be paid. But at the same time, we've got a above and beyond benefits package that needs to be, it's a cost that all employees benefit from. It's getting more and more expensive. But I think we need to pay what, and if you wanna look at other towns or however you wanna do it, I mean, there has to be an average of what you would pay an individual to do a certain job. And if we're not paying that, we need to, and if we are paying that, then we don't need to be beating ourselves up for it. I've been a builder for 30-some years. I don't make more because I've been a builder for 30-some years. You know, typically it's up and down, and the town employees typically, you know, you always get an incremental increase of some sort. That's very lucky. But I don't know how you put a number on an individual person's head. I don't know. I think it all needs to be looked at, and if you guys looked at it simply without taking into concern a benefits package, I don't see how you did it. Because that's a huge part of it. That's a huge part of the cost of any employee to the town. That's a huge part of it. And it's all over the board as to what that benefits package entails. I don't know if it's 100%, 80%, 10, I don't know. But I think it's something that would have had to been a part of that. And at least from the map study and from my viewpoint, I've had people thank me, and I've had people that are really not happy at all. So I don't know where that went wrong, but I wasn't a part of that. But I think from my viewpoint, I want everybody to be paid fair. If they're not being paid fair, and you know who they are, I just think it's wrong to not consider everything as a whole when you're doing that.
The MAP study, when you talk about benefits, other than the healthcare cost, benefits that had to do with sick leave, that had to do with vacation, that had to do with the question of long-term incentive and all that, that was all handled as part of that. The only thing that we said we were gonna defer until next budget was evaluating healthcare, because it is such a, in a way, a separate piece. It's just a totally different animal, but all of the other, what you would call benefits, were part of that personnel policy and the decision in addition to job classifications and the, what I would just call basic salary adjustments to be on par with the market value. So
What about years of service?
that is factored in to what we approved as option one for the salary adjustment. Okay, so that was factored. That was where having years of service gave you a benefit if you're in the same grade level sort of thing as another person who's newer. That keeps it more spread out. So that was covered in option one for the salary adjustments. Otherwise, we decided that we weren't just gonna do an end-of-year longevity bonus, that there were other places that we could use that money better for incentivizing. So that, again, as I went through what our whole decision-making on that plan, healthcare was the one thing that we said, we're not gonna hold this up for that, but it needs to be addressed in upcoming discussions.
I'd like to add in one thing about that map study,
Yeah.
regardless of what the details were. I want to take the opportunity to reiterate or point out the fact that that map study was a direct, specific result of the internal control review. That, as a matter of fact, I was critiqued for not having moved out on that more quickly or more readily, and it was done. That was a board decision to do that thing. That was the first takedown. So that map study, the internal control report, was driven by the board, and so was the recommendation, the solution that came out of that resulted in the MAP study.
Right, wrong, or indifferent.
The board asked for it.
Yep. So are we having this as a priority with the understanding that David will give a comparison as information becomes available that we can have a discussion around?
I'm good.
Sure.
You good?
David?
Yes, and that's nothing, yes, we'll get that.
Thank you. Okay, next one. Evaluate police department staffing against safety and enforcement once and ensure adequate manpower and funding for the next 3 to 5 years. The other one was to ask the sheriff for assistance during rental season. That, I think, comes from the, can we get more assistance from the county?
And just so you'll know, we've got it on our intent to do. I don't know if that's been done yet, but that's a personal conversation with the sheriff. We had not done that yet, but that's what can we do?
Okay,
And
so-
that, just please note that doesn't have to wait to 1 July to get done.
okay. I was the one who actually put the evaluating the staffing, and the reason I did that was over the past 3 years or so, the things that you keep hearing from the public are, we need more enforcement, mainly for parking, for moving traffic, and for dogs on the beach, which is why you'll see later on, I think in ordinance related, I actually had evaluating again ordinance enforcement for dogs on the beach, parking and moving vehicle violations. So my point really is, if we are actually going to address public complaints, there has to be a desire to have enforcement. If we're not, if we're just saying we can't do this, it can't work, then I think we have to come up with a way to explain to the public that we do listen, we do watch for it, we do what we can when we see it, but that's different than having a real enforcement rollout and effort that is targeted to three continuing complaints. So that's the background on that one.
Well, we've also, in recent discussions, added kind of golf cart safety issues
That's,
being
that's,
important.
yeah, that's a moving,
Yeah.
that's a moving vehicle.
Can I interject one thing here? And
Yeah,
I'm here to listen, but as far as the sheriff part goes, again, we can get the numbers, but I can go ahead and tell you right up front, if they come over here, they are not gonna look at any of our local ordinances. It's not what the sheriff's department does. They're not sworn with the town. They may answer a 911 call if somebody calls 911. But if you're looking at reviewing, the golf carts, the dogs on the beach, the parking, I can promise you right now, the sheriff and their agency is not gonna be concerned with that at all. So you're not gonna gain anything on those aspects by doing that. It's gonna take more local officers who are sworn here, who know our local ordinances.
Do they assist? Sorry, go ahead.
I would add that the sheriff is gonna be friendly to the idea, but everything that the chief just said, and in addition, the person that might be sent over here might be from somewhere that hardly knows anything about this area, where Food Line is, or where the bank is, or where the fishing pier is. I think the willingness is there, but in the past that we've looked at it, unless it's a special event or something, as far as a day-to-day thing, it has not proven to be a workable idea.
If you needed their help, if you needed the county's help, because I know for a fact that you guys have gone to help them
Correct.
on some occasions, at least that I know of.
Right.
do you have their support? I mean, is that,
We do, we have a good working relationship, but that support comes, if I get on the radio right now and start hollering for help, because I'm in a bind right here in the town hall, I'll get the sheriff's department to come to me, shoot, Shalot's come to me, but the sheriff's department may be as far as Shalot. They're split up into zones. Their zone 4 car covers from 211 to 130 overpass. And they cover everything to the Columbus County state line, all the way to Home Beach. That's zone 4. So if that car's out on 211 out there, you know, the Kangaroo, it's gonna take him a little while to get here. If he's out there at Camp Branch Road, because that's also in this area, it's a long ride from Camp Branch Road to get in here and fight. So if that's the closest one, you know, you may be waiting on somebody to come from Shalot, but.
If they're
yes,
around,
the
they would.
relationship is there, but for the practicality of it, they could be so far away that, you know.
It's over by the time they get
It's-
here.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Somebody's seriously hurt by the time they get here. And honestly, that's why a lot of times they'll ask us for help, because if they've got an officer on Camp Branch Road and it's the closest one, and they've got to fight at the food line or whatever the situation, we're closer than they are, so they'll ask us to go assist.
I think we need to look at it.
I will say that 10+ years ago, when I first got here, there were 10 police officers authorized, and we have 8 police officers authorized. And we actually have, and because this is the addressing the staffing issue, which in my world, we have 8 authorizations, but may not have all those positions filled. We're fortunate in that we have all the positions filled today. We do have a pending resignation, took a job elsewhere. Recently, we've had 3 officers out, 1 on administrative leave and 2 out sick. So the staffing aspect of it, that's why Jeremy's, the circles under his eyes are so deep, is that, you know, it's one thing to have 8 authorizations, but I've only got 4 bodies to cover shift, or the chief has 4 bodies to cover shift, so.
The island's growing, we're getting busier.
Yep.
I'll
It's-
say that. I've noticed.
it's gonna
since
get
the time
worse.
I've been here,
You're right.
The
We
rental
gotta
season
have-
used to be Memorial Day to
I think
Labor
this is a
Day.
priority to
Yeah,
evaluate
I do.
staffing again.
I think if you wanna even try to address a dog running loose on the beach, man, you're gonna have to have somebody to do it.
So,
Now, we can, just like we have information available on the different, insurance plans, it's a fairly simple matter to gather data from other beaches to see what type of, you know, manpower they have. I mean, that's a straightforward thing. But your discussion will evolve around, well, how are they like us, or how are they different from us? But we can get that information and have it as part of the budget to show fairly easily.
keep this as a priority, okay?
Just keep her.
All right. Okay. We're done with finance budget. We're in the long-term plans. First one is approve a land use plan, finalize the land use plan. I think we all agree that we're close to doing that, and yeah, that has to happen. Make sure fire hydrants replaced or in disrepair. There's apparently 294 on the island, and we know that some are bagged right now, and this should just be an ongoing sort of program, I guess. Everybody agree that that's a,
Just
okay?
remember the lawsuit the town of Holden Beach had.
Yeah.
There's one less bag now that was fixed this week.
Yay.
What was the
What was the
lawsuit?
lawsuit?
Before you people were around.
House
You
burnt
mean
down.
before we lived here?
You still have black hair?
Yeah, when Mrs. Chance's house burned.
House burnt down,
down
no
there.
water.
Cause the fire hydrant wasn't functioning. Town.
That wasn't my time.
Well, I said before your time.
David's looking at me like,
Yeah.
I do
Chris
have
can-
one now that's not working, the stem's breaking, and we actually had to rebuild it budget season coming, we do need to start budgeting and start replacing some upper parts of them, the corroded parts that do it a few years.
Okay.
And before I forget it, 194 East, that fire hydrant there.
I ain't forgot.
Okay, that's a yes. The next one, protect beach and dune systems, keep people off the dunes. Yeah, this is another, it's a, yeah, this is an objective, the question is how do you do it? But, yeah, it's, you know, education can be part of this, but it's not a good objective, but it's gonna need some figuring out exactly what actions get taken. So it can be an objective, but it's something we're gonna have to work
Figure
out,
out, yep.
okay? The next one is complete the water tower needs assessment, consider need for second.
I thought we were doing 13 and above.
Oh, sorry, I missed the 13, 13 and above, you're right. I missed the next 13. Option for generators left on the beach.
I'll speak on that one if you want.
Generators at pump stations, I don't know.
I got a couple things to say about that.
Mm-hmm.
One is this big old dude out here. You know, if we gotta have them, we gotta have them. And I guess there's no way around it. It is what it is. You put a brand new one out here, it's gonna be gone again. We all know that. It's just how much did it cost us a year kind of thing, you know. It's not when they go bad, you can pretty much bank on them going bad. What bothers me the most is the replacement of these sewer lift stations. And this is my opinion, it's not anybody else's opinion. A lot of the public is under the opinion that these generators are to run the sewer system in the event of pretty much any time that they would go down, which it would include a minor storm. You guys come get them and pull them off the beach. If there's no chance, once the sewer systems are raised up above flood, are you still saying there's no chance that they can't stay up and running in the event of I'm not talking about a category 3 or 4 or 5 hurricane that's gonna really do some damage. I mean, nobody's gonna be over here anyway. We're gonna have a lot of flooding, but I'm talking about just a little tropical storm that might come up through here. Is there any chance of them staying running? I know generators can be put inside of buildings and vented with air intakes and exhausts and everything. I have them in my spray foam rigs. They're inside, they're enclosed, they're protected. On your brand new pump station that we built down here, it's sitting on the ground beside it. Did anybody ever maybe think about putting that thing inside of there? Where the salt didn't get to it as bad, where the pump station may stay running in the event of something, you know, minor, that maybe we could get people back over here. Maybe we never had to shut it down to start with. Or is it just storm comes, we gotta shut the doors on this place? And then, if that's the case on the sewer system, then I don't see how you can call this generator here, this building a critical facility to spend $100 grand to put that back. And if we're gonna do that, I'd like for somebody to at least call Brunswick Electric and see how many times the power's actually been out on this building, if ever, without the event of a storm coming through here. It's, you know, we rented one, it's, what was it, David, $3,500 a month?
$3,000 a month, $100 a day.
It's my opinion, it doesn't need to go any further than that or be perceived any other way than that. It's just, it seems like for the amount of money that they cost, and I don't know how much the ones cost that are sitting on the ground down through there, I understand we gotta have one, but if we had it, or if we had 3 of them in a enclosed building out here, and the sewer pumps go down, we could get them there pretty quick, couldn't we? We're leaving them out there, I mean, park your truck out there for 3 years, you know?
Well, when we first went into operation, Brian, we had one generator, and we kept it full-time over at the DOC building, so I had one generator run 3 pump stations. And that just weren't practical. We stayed like that, but I guess it was maybe 5 years ago, I had inspection from Dean Huntley with the sewer, he's the main sewer guy. He's the one that made us get the additional generators. I feel the pain as far as them sitting down there, you know, in the salt area and everything. You're right. I mean, it's a dead, it's expensive. It's gonna continue over time. But, you know, when you mentioned the tropical storm, I've never shut this place down during a tropical storm. The only time we've ever shut it down was if something major that we knew that it was inevitable. And when we did that, we waited to the very last minute, you know. I can't rely on a generator, down there trying to keep the station going and nobody can get back here and fix something if you've got a problem. Let's just say July, say it's Saturday night or something other than I got people, on the other side of the Myrtle Beach, electricity goes off. I know it don't happen very often, but electricity goes off. This wet well up here is steady filling up with sewer and no way to pump it out. You know, the time we get here is running down the boulevard there. It's pretty, you know, it's kind of risky. You can't take it. The thought for putting them on wheels is because every place that we visited, that's actually the way they were all constructed. Brunswick County, Oak Island, I went to 3 or 4, all of them were on wheels. And at the time, it just made more sense to be able to hook on them and pull them off during the storm. Because I said the only time I pulled them away from here is when I know that we're gonna be shutting it down, and I knew I'd have a generator when I get back. Yeah, that's a good idea if you had them in a building elevated, but that's, you know, I don't know what the cost would be, what type of structure, you know, that's just getting pretty expensive. Just that day that we actually went to the station, and I did talk with you, you did have some good ideas that I hadn't really thought about. You know, if you had an aluminum trailer that was enclosed, I don't know what it would take to engineer something up like that, it was in a trailer enclosed with exhaust going at it where you could run it. You know, that may be an option, but I don't know what the requirements are for diesel fuel inside of it, but, you know, sealed up in a trailer as far as explosion and stuff like that. There's a lot of details there that have to be worked out. And yes, it'd be a wonderful thing if we could figure out a solution to that, because you're talking about, probably $250,000, $300,000 worth of generators. So, you know, I don't know, I keep my mind trying to work to see if I can come up with something different now, but, you know, I respect the opinion, everybody's got one, you know, you bring out some good points. I wish I knew a way that I could say, you know, yeah, we can do this and that'll eliminate that. I think there's a lot more to it than just, you know, it sounds easy, but it can get mighty complicated.
It's just a big expense. I mean, if the power went off in this building right now, I'd just soon, I mean, I'd go home.
This building right here, I can get by with it worse than I can not having a sewer up here.
That's what I'm saying, huh? But to leave them,
Well, wait just a minute now. Wait just a minute. Wait just a minute. Wait just a minute. We got public records. We got dope in the locker back there. This building has security issues that go along with it that have to be perpetuated whenever the power goes off. And I use that. I don't know if there's any back there or not, but there are secure things. We've got finance records. We've got personnel information in these rooms that has to be secured, that goes with it. So power goes off.
we got police officers and door locks. I'm just saying, that,
I'm not bad mouthing, you know.
it's a lot of money,
Right, I
man.
mean, we need generators here, but I'm just saying, I mean, absolutely, I've got to have them. Yeah, we need to figure out a way to better protect.
Well,
them.
here's my question. Tim, what does it take to modify the hazard mitigation plan to take this building off as a critical facility? What has to be done in order to?
I gotta send an email before the 31st of March.
Okay, so y'all decide not to make this building a critical facility, that's what it does, and we shut the place up and go home whenever that happens. But that said, whenever there's a storm and this building is not able to be used to reconstitute the island, and I'm gonna make a pitch for that flagpole out there, has the town hall as the bastion of democracy that everybody looks at as the place of government at the beach. If you don't want that, then go ahead and tell me to do that, and we'll make it a non-critical facility. But we shut the town hall down when that happens. We cannot run government from this building without power in the storm event. That's where you are with it.
You can't, without power on the building, you can't occupy it.
And there are other communications things that we do not have the ability to deliver services from. The limited services in a storm event that are done from the Emergency Operations Center, while we have abilities over there, they are short-term and we're not able to perpetuate those on a long-term basis, as would happen and need to be done in a major storm event.
How many times have you had to use it?
We never had to use it as a critical facility
I
to
mean,
come back to.
generator.
The last, every storm that came through, Florence, Michael, Dorian, Hannah, all those storms.
Quite a few times we've had power outages, you probably didn't realize that it's running, and also the generator up here,
At the emergency center.
that emergency center and the big one right here up under the bridge. And, I don't know, it's tough.
Just, maybe there's a better way to protect that investment.
We have thought about it, too.
If we gotta do it, we gotta do it. I'm just saying, pay somebody to wash it off every week. I don't know what the answer is.
Anybody that builds on Holden Beach knows you don't put the generators and air conditioners on the south or the west side of the building.
You don't have but 18 of them over there.
Right.
Oh,
And they're dying every week on us.
The generators at the lift stations are required by the NEC. They were supposed to be there from day one, that's why when Dean Huntley realized they weren't there. They have to be there for, even for minor failures to stop from environmental pollution.
Do they crank up automatically if the
Yes,
power?
they do.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can you
Well,
rent
that
'em?
kills the idea I give you an offer.
And the only reason that we move them is because when we shut down the sewer, if the sewer's not running, you don't have to have the generator.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to have the capability. That's when you can move them off the island to protect them from the storm.
And I would just add one item. When we looked at the vulnerability of the sewer system as they existed below ground, there was a greater likelihood that the electricity would be knocked out, I mean, by an accident that hit the, whatever you call it, the generator over on the island that would knock out the electricity to this island. So you needed the generators more for that rather than an actual storm.
If you had, if you have the switching station and supply go out,
Which you
then this building won't be able to be occupied without some sort of a backup.
How about the sailboat mast to hit the power line at the bottom of the bridge?
Well,
Knock
for
out half
whatever
the
reason,
island.
but I'm just saying that the reason that it was suggested, in addition to the other ones, to get these generators, because there was only two at the time, to get the two more, was that the vulnerability of the system was more susceptible to an electrical outage caused by something other than a storm. So we got those two. But I was thinking, what we're talking, could we get some kind of cover made like you have on your grill?
But that's what I was gonna suggest,
Well,
but
I'm just saying, is that possible? Would that work to?
I think you can get anything you want, Mike.
No, but I mean, is it sensible to do it?
If you got the money, because I've actually been thinking, if you had one that was complete aluminum enclosure, with some louvers that opened up where you weren't getting the outside solid air, that, it may be possible, but I'm quite sure it's gonna be mighty pricey, because I mean, you start buying
Yeah.
135 kW generators, you can go in $150,000 just regular steel unit, you start getting this stainless steel, aluminum and all that. I'll try to see if I can find any other options and
Yeah,
just bring it back to the table.
Well,
just-
I guess that would,
Like Brian says, I'll hire somebody to sit down there once a week and
I'm just kidding, man.
And hose them off.
That's what you do with your car, isn't it?
We do that for the ACs.
We do too, but,
And yes, you can rent them, Brian, because I think you were gonna say that a while ago, but
As if you keep one for a year and then trade it out where they don't get in such bad shape, I mean, you sit down there and then they're,
if you could
this
find
thing's
if-
dead.
If you could find a revolving rental
Yeah, that's what,
program where you could flop them out once a year.
That's what
that
I'm
would be-
saying.
That would be nice, you know, sort of like a bulldozer for dredge boat. But I don't know that they're out there.
so I
I
guess
don't either.
this comes back to, do we want this to be a priority that town manager tasks this out to see if there are some options that we try to do this year to explore options? It's not to brainstorm and find a solution today, but do we want it to be a priority that it does get studied?
I'm good.
it's a big expense. Let's look at it.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Now, water tower. Complete the water tower need assessment. I think we put money into this budget year to do a new study, I thought, but with this kind of score, I guess it's, everybody is agreeing that we need to make sure that that gets done.
I thought we did one.
Tom McGill did one.
No, Right Angle,
Right Angle
Right
did
Angle
one.
did, Right Angle did it for us.
They did one where they isolated 3 sites, we could possibly put one, but planning and zoning said they didn't do a study to determine if we needed one. The study was, where would you put one?
10-4, I didn't bring that too.
That's all right.
Okay. So we want to get that for all?
Yep.
Okay. Next, mark all legal crosswalks so people are kept safe. This is the linked to the DOT situation,
This gonna
yeah?
go to the speed limit thing.
Yeah, it's, but I think we all agree that we need to make a determination of how we can best do this,
Looks like it.
okay? The next one is decide who we will rely on for beach nourishment, Corps or FEMA. I mean, we kind of have to wait for a determination to come on whether or not we have an opportunity for Corps.
Yeah.
And let's face it, I mean, we had this discussion. Even if you decide that you want to have the core, I mean, if you have a completed project done by the Corps, that eliminates our ability to get FEMA. But you can, if you think that it would be better to go with the Corps, you could do that, and that doesn't eliminate you from getting FEMA until such time
Right.
that the project is actually completed. And there was a project in South Carolina that somebody brought to my attention to prove they thought the point that it would be a terrible thing to go with the Corps, because, and all it was that after 17 years, that municipality decided to withdraw because nothing was ever done. But as that time went on for 17 years, that did not preclude them from getting FEMA funds.
That's right.
So it's only after you have a completed project. So this is a non-entity to me.
That's right.
This is not something we should even have to consider, because we can do both up until the time that a project is completed. And in order to get the project completed, we'd have to have a study done by the Corps, they'd have to approve the project, then they'd have to allocate the funds for the project, then they'd have to actually fund the project, and then they'd have to complete the project. So these are not mutually exclusive until you're way, way down the line.
Yep.
So I would
would
suggest
say
we
drop it.
remove it.
Okay, good,
Which one we dropping?
okay.
14.
That was a 14. Support inlet access to the ocean. This is Lockwood Folly Inlet.
No brainer.
I think,
Definitely.
yeah, we have to do it. It's just gonna at some point come down to, you know, the ultimate, if the costs keep going up, to what level, but yeah, I agree, yes.
I know that we're doing budget and goal stuff, but would y'all allow me to lateral to the assistant town manager to give you just a real quick update on the recent actions down there and what's pending, what's coming forward? Or is that gonna put you on the spot on
No,
the,
I mean, I just don't know how much you want me to talk about in the.
About that
I know
much.
that it's
About that
about that much, okay. At the MOA meeting, they talked about back in, I think it was December when the mayor was here for a while, got pulled off the project to go to Oregon Inlet, that is anticipated to be back in April, to do the side caster dredging. The project was just completed for the AIWW inlet crossing project and the Ben Widener. We're still waiting on final numbers for how much sand was put on the beach, and then I don't know how much further you want me to go after that.
how about the upcoming proposed project for the next round of inlet crossing dredging?
Okay, so on the slide at the MOA meeting, and I was at a conference, I wasn't at the meeting, I followed up with the Wilmington district and said it's on the slide that it says that they're anticipating, so it used to be that the crossing and the Ben Widener were every 2 years, you guys know that. Okay, so recently, and I would say the last 3 to 4 years, they have been fitting in inlet crossing money, not always time to do the Ben Widener. So year before last, when Oak Island got it, their environmental window ran out and they didn't get to capitalize on the Ben Widener. So we were able to get more sand this year, but, they're kind of doing it every year now, is the kind of process that they're in last 3 to 5 years. Well, they had up on the slide that they were expecting to put a project for this upcoming fiscal year for the crossing out to bid in June with, bid, contractor selected in August. And I followed up with Brennan, their program manager, and said, this is on the slide just to put our name in the pot. You know, we wanna make sure we had our study done. It proves that the sand should come to us. Holden Beach wants this sand. In the response, I got an email that says the Corps has decided that sand is gonna go to Oak Island. So we have a meeting conference scheduled with the Corps, and we have already involved our lobbyist in the situation. But right now, it looks like, based on them not having done their own study, and them not being accepting of what our studies put out, that they're coming up with this, you get it 1 year, you get it 1 year, I'm gonna make each child happy kind of philosophy, and we're not going along with that. That happened last week. And since we haven't had the follow-up discussion that's scheduled for the end of this week by phone conference, I'm not sure that David's, I know I haven't sent that out, but I'm not sure that David sent that out.
So they're ignoring
Our study.
the study, because we did give that to them, right? We
yeah.
ordered that over a year ago, right?
That's right.
So we gave that to them, and they're ignoring the data there. And so they're actually deciding contrary to their own rules about it should be the most economical and so forth, right? Okay.
Which is interesting, because last year in DC, when we spoke to, I think it was OMB, wasn't it? And they brought in their navigation person, and they seemed to sort of do a, well, no, from navigation purposes, it would always be least cost and where it cannot, least cost and where it cannot come back.
Least likely to go back.
Yeah, so this may be a
Makes no
reinforcement
sense.
that has to happen sooner than later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're working
Yeah, no,
that into our dialogue.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was actually already in our point paper
Yes.
for our advocacy trip to pull out some of those bullets from our study to reinforce that. But in the meantime, this happened. So, I mean, we're still have that in our point paper, but it's just new development that it seems to be at the local level at the Wilmington district, that they're saying we don't want to have to decide between the two. They have admitted that as of last year, they didn't have their own study. So,
I only bring that to your attention because that's an issue that we're working, top down, middle and sideways.
Not only that, but this is a replay of what happened 2 years ago,
Except
when
they
they
blamed the
decided,
easements.
without telling us that we didn't have the proper easements and gave it, and then we went there and jumped up and down.
Right, but-
And they promised that that would never happen again. We would always be invited to the table, so did they forget that? They made this decision without us having any input at all, right?
Pretty much the same thing, except there is no logic. The logic for not having our easements does not exist anymore.
No. They don't even have that.
Yeah.
Okay. Ordinance related. The only one is make decision on zoning change regarding setbacks, parking, percent permeable, et cetera. I hope that that's yes, because we're addressing it at the next BOCM,
There's some,
to make a decision. It's not to make it's make a decision.
Need to be short and very
yep, direct.
Yeah. The next one is to work together for the good of the town, no personal agenda, be transparent. I think we can all agree that we want to operate this way. And this truly would be a board of commissioners, so this would be commissioner objectives, that, you know, this is how the board is supposed to act. Is there an actual action that needs to go with that, or it's just that we're all agreeing that that's our objective?
I think that's a good statement.
It's a good statement. We can, okay, that's fine.
That would be a vast improvement over the past.
Advocacy, as you will notice, everything under advocacy got greater than 13.
Why wouldn't it?
Which looks like a lot more money.
Now, of course, when you read the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's actually probably 2 objectives. One of them being, we have to continue to stop the inlet hazard area situation. And the other one has to do with really, it's just get what we need for our island in terms of maintaining our beaches and inlets, and that's at federal, state, and county levels. So it is sort of probably can be reduced to 2 objectives, is my guess. But I think we all agree that we have to do this. And the last one is the marketing of Holden Beach to renters, potential homeowners. So I'm not sure what's envisioned there that we don't already do. Maybe the manager and mayor can give some
I had that same,
insight.
It was
I had
Yeah.
that same, comment or query, because the, point or penny of the occupancy tax that we give to the Tourism Development Authority, that's basically what that actually does at a strategic and large scale, level. We do have a promotions budget that is a law, there's not much in there, but that's small things that we do. If there's an opportunity for radio time, one year we did we had Terry Bradshaw doing infomercials, so it's small potatoes compared to what the 1 penny, what's that, like $300,000 that we give to the Tourism Development Authority. But along with that, I would say that, maybe not marketing in terms of advertising, those types of stereotypical things. There are things that we do just because it's how we do. For example, our Concerts on the Coast series. That is a really, I think that's probably most in-your-face example of that. That's marketing. And there are other smaller things like that go along with that. Day at the Docks, those kind of things. Those types of festivals that happen. But
Well, that one was, at least I submitted it, and I was thinking about, I've heard the lady from the county tourism speak before, a couple years ago, and I wasn't overly impressed with her presentation or what they were doing. Not saying it was bad, I just wasn't overly impressed. And I was thinking more of maybe point advertising to specific groups that might like to find Holden Beach as their permanent home, whether it's, you know, going after more retirees, or maybe going after the, people who can work from home, which may become more and more, with the coronavirus. There's towns that are advertising to, like I said, younger folks to come in because of the quality of life and because the internet's available and they can work from home and things like that. So I was thinking more, not just to broad advertise Holden Beach is a great place to come rent a house, which I'm sure folks would love that too, but come here to make this your permanent home, not just come to rent. That's what I was thinking about, but I think it's something to explore. There may be nothing there, but
Okay.
I threw that there as a neophyte.
I understand it.
Is it something we want to task the town manager with for this budget year? To explore it?
And if, like, once again, if you've heard me explain it, if y'all
Yeah.
not interested in it, it won't hurt my feelings. I just felt like we might have some opportunities to try to go after some more permanent residents and, or maybe more renters or long-term renters or whatever. But if the need's not really there, or if we feel like there's other avenues there to take care of that, I'm sure Alan does his own advertising, just like some of the others do. Maybe we don't need to do this one, but I'll leave it up to y'all.
I'm supportive of it. Brian, I'm sure you are in your business. It hurts my feelings, you know, you look into State Magazine, look in the festival ad section and
And
stuff
we're
like
never
that.
there.
And
Yeah.
and so many times Holden Beach is not promoting what we're doing a good job at.
Well, I mean, it never hurts to do a seek out what other people are doing, and can we do the same to have a sort of a stepwise approach of, let's see what others are doing that might, it's just who does it
Yeah.
becomes. So we want to keep this as an objective, and we'll figure out how it's going to be tasked?
Yep.
Yeah?
And I'd like to hear I assume this lady that's still running the Brunswick County Tourism.
Mitzi,
Mitzi.
I'd love to have her come back and explain in more detail what she's doing to help us.
Okay. Okay, that's it. So, obviously, we're not gonna be discussing this at next week's BOCM, but typically then, we would organize, you know, what we've agreed are the priorities to just present it at the next BOCM so that the public has a chance to see it. So, it's now taking it down to, here's what we've agreed.
I did have one request,
Yeah,
primarily because I already tasked the audit committee for doing this, the amending the audit committee ordinance. I have asked the new audit committee to do their own research about what they believe the audit committee's responsibilities should be, because in my opinion, the current ordinance, it says the audit is an advisory committee, but it looks like there's a whole lot of enforcement stuff in there.
yeah.
And I think we need to do some work cleaning up what that committee is responsible for and not responsible for.
Yeah, again, if there are things here that aren't on, the board agrees that these should be what we try to achieve this year. And as the year moves on, if there are things that people still feel strongly about that didn't make the cut, and they want to see if they can do some work and work something in, I mean, that's basically how we operate. So there's nothing that says that you can't still lead something and try and get some action on it. But it's gonna be things that don't take money generally, that just take some agreements. So I'm happy to work with Heather if I have to just make sure that we have what we just discussed coherently laid out. But that now is where we are in terms of what we've agreed. And we would put it together for showing it to everybody and officially blessing it at the April BOCM.
Are you going, under advocacy, are you gonna take the second through the?
Yeah,
Okay.
make it into,
Okay.
to one big, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Is that acceptable to everybody?
Mhm.
Okay, then this section of the meeting is done. And we need to propose to go into a closed session.
Yes, we do. And Madam Clerk.
Executive session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A6 to discuss a personnel matter.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those again in the audience, we'll be going into executive session. Don't know how long we're gonna be here.